I'm sure that there are probably more than a few people in my audience who have visited one of these facilities. AFES, for those of you that are not former military, stands for the Army Air Force Exchange System. This is where, when you're a young soldier and throughout your military career, you go to buy things where the prices are low and set, predetermined, so that you can make a budget for yourself. When you first enter the military, you live here. This is your, place to go to get, well, in my era, it was Kiwi, bar soap, all of your basic toiletries, things that you would need that the military didn't supply directly for you. They provided you a check along with place to stay and training and all sorts of a mission in life. Point being, fixed prices, predictable prices for the basics. For the things that you needed, you knew every month it would cost ABC or XYZ, always. And of course, for our Navy brethren, this as well, you guys know the paradigm. BX, commissary, is how you lived. And even later in your career, it's a wonderful thing to be able to go on base to one of these establishments, save quite a bit of money. They're not flashy. They're not full of all of the bells and whistles of different places that aren't on base, but they are, if nothing else, predictable. Now, the reason I started the video with this is so that we could talk about this. Now, unfortunately, I've tried to get this thing to translate, but I will translate for you what this says. Basically, what's going on in Venezuela now is this. They are sitting down. They have a thing called Plan 50, where they are picking out the 50 most basic necessities for the people of their country, and they are setting prices. It's not everything. They couldn't care less what any business person out there charges for a TV or a DVD player or any other kind of luxury items. It's the basic 50 things. Sugar, flour, wheat, poultry, beef, fish, even basic toiletries. They are sitting down now. The government has stepped in, kicked out all of these black markets, all of these racketeers, profiteers, and they're sitting down now and reestablishing for their country basic need prices to protect their elderly and protect their vulnerable. This is what got this country put on the no-fly list, the travel ban. This type of thing. You don't hear about tens of thousands of armed paramilitary people having running gun battles in Maracaibo. You don't hear about that because it doesn't happen. But you hear about it all over Colombia. And we just welcomed their leader into Washington, D.C. But, it's really kind of anticlimactic because he's been there before. A lot of people don't realize this. And you say, well, wait, why? How was Mr. Duque? Yeah, in Washington, D.C. before this. Yeah, actually, he lived there for 12 years. You know what he did? Well, let's read. I think a lot of you would be interested in what he did between 2001 and 2013. Oh, look, he worked for the Inter-American Development Bank. Wow. Colombia's president-elect spent most of his professional career in the American capital between 2001 and 2013, working for the Inter-American Development Bank, and now, magically, he is the president of Colombia. You remember this guy here, the one that's going to launch poison-filled drones over his country? It's strange that they have all of this ability to round up the FARC and the ELN and get rid of these guys, but when it comes to the actual War Crimes Tribunal, oh wait, that's something else here, hold on. See if we can find it here. There we go. Yeah, this War Crimes Tribunal that they were basically forced to stand up to deal with their right-wing paramilitaries, yeah, they're weakening it even further. They've even admitted that this is the group of people that's primarily responsible for the drugs coming out of Colombia. The most corrupt country in the hemisphere's leader is now in Washington, D.C., welcomed with open arms, while right next door, the sanctioned country, the one with no running gun battles, the one with no giant drug cartels exporting tons and tons and tons of cocaine. Yeah, they're on the no-fly list, no-visit list, travel ban. Makes perfect sense. But what makes even better sense is numbers. And I thought you would enjoy to seeing some numbers. So I brought up some pictures. Now, we've used this one before. We have this fake, false, make-believe story out of the media that keeps rearing its ugly head about Venezuela and how, everybody's leaving in droves and the ones that aren't leaving are just falling over dead in the street and people are dying left and right for the last 4 years. 5 years, almost. This has been the story of the mainstream media. Yet, strangely enough, these are official population numbers for Venezuela. Starting here in 2014, they went from 30 million, 30.2, 30.6, 31.03, 31.43 in 2017. Now, the last two charts I have this is countrymeters.info. Okay, this isn't some kind of political website that's putting these numbers out, and I have these numbers up next to the ones for the United States, and I think there's a surprising fact that we're going to reveal with this. You see, we look here at Venezuela's population, we go down here, and we look at their population growth. 220,000 this year. Okay, their current population, 32.44. Okay, so roughly, they are 1/10 the size of the U.S. So, what we should see with the U.S., if they were even at the level of population growth of Venezuela, given that we're about 10 times this number, we should see this number being 10 times this number. Just to be on par with Venezuela. Okay, now this is net migration. This is a net number right here. Population growth after everything taken into consideration. This country has 220,000 more people today than it did last year. Now, let's look at the United States. Okay, like I said, 10 times the size, 329 million people. So, we should see numbers that would correlate to about 10 times as much. Look at our net population growth. 1.2. This is only 6 times as much, relatively speaking. We have 10 times the population, but instead of having 10 times the population growth, we only have 6 times the population growth. So, person for person, they're doing better than we are. And I know that's a shocking number, and you can go here yourself. It's countrymeters.info/en/Venezuela and / of course, United States of America, respectively. And you can put these numbers together for yourself, and you can see clearly that this story, this fake, false, make-believe story out of Venezuela, that they're completely zombie society, falling apart with no hope unless Mr. Maduro would resign and the U.S. could install its own people, is bunk. They have had some problems. They've had some massive hyperinflation, but as you can see, the wealth of your currency doesn't describe the wealth of your people, does it? It doesn't describe or inform the hope of the people in your country. Because when you talk about this, you talk about people having babies. And they're doing so at a higher rate than we are here in the United States. 32 million people, 220,000. So if we have a population 10 times the size, what should we see? A number 10 times as big as this. But what do we actually see? We see a number 6 times as big. Numbers don't lie. So the next time you read about how wonderful Colombia is and how great their leadership is and how Washington is so excited to have them as a partner, you'll know what the real story is. Because it's not what they're telling you. Colombia is one of the U.S.'s quote-unquote staunchest allies in the region. I suppose, yeah, if you were going to collude to import drugs and then try to blame Mexico for it, yeah, great ally. Yet unsuccessful to combat cocaine trafficking between Colombia, the world's largest producer of the drug, and the U.S., the world's top consumer of the drug. This is cognitive dissonance. Oh, no, by the way, I'm glad I mentioned that. For those of you out there who are in the Special Access Need to Know division, we are going to read you into the round table on Patreon tomorrow. So we are going to have a joint meeting of the round table and the Special Access Need to Know guys, because we are going to start doing some psychological operations of our own, given that it doesn't seem like anyone is interested in the truth. So we are going to attempt to slow walk the world to the truth. And I believe that with a few dedicated Maquisards, we can do that. So thank you so much for your time. I very much appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank you.